It's March 2021 and we're in lockdown due to COVID-19. We can only go out for very limited purposes and for a session of exercise every day. Well, back in July 2009, I went on a sailing trip and I shot some video, but I never quite got round to editing it. Well, lockdown has provided a perfect opportunity to do something about that. I'm afraid the images and the sound aren't actually quite up to my normal expectations, but I hope you enjoy the trip. That trip, by the way, was not made in my boat, but was made in something altogether larger. I arrive at Jersey's only town, St Helier, a day before I'm due to join the ship, so I can explore somewhere I've not been to before. How are the property prices? Well, this was 2009, and according to Zoopla, by 2021 prices in Jersey had increased by about 45%. So these properties would have by then have been valued at over £700,000. This is Holgangsenlager 8 in German, or Shelter Cave 8 in English. Situated in St Lawrence, it was originally intended to be part of the Second World War German Atlantic Wall system of defence against Allied attack. The Channel Islands were the only part of the United Kingdom to be occupied by Germany, and the Atlantic Wall, here shown in amber, was intended to prevent invasion of German-occupied territory by the Allies. Originally meant to be a shelter for German infantry and artillery, as well as an ammunition dump, it was later converted to a subterranean hospital. It was mostly constructed by slave labour, for whom working and living conditions were terrible. Following the end of the war, it became a museum known as the Jersey War Tunnels. Well, it's the 5th of July, and time to join the ship along with the rest of the voyage crew. The sailing vessel Tenacious is a tall ship operated by the Jubilee Sailing Trust. It was launched in 2000, and it's the largest wooden ship to have been built in the UK in the last 100 years. Technically, it's a 3-masted bark, and at 65 metres overall length, it's claimed to be the world's largest wooden ship still afloat.
You need one of these. When you're on deck, you want to throw this way around there.
We're issued with our outer clothing and safety kit and shown how to use it by David, an experienced voyage crew member. We're then given a full briefing by the ship's master, St Katherine, as well as other members of the professional permanent crew. First, the passage plan is
coming up through the bottom here at Dover, and then up and just round into Thames Estuary.
A passage will take us northwards past the other Channel Island before we round Cap de la Hague and head eastwards in the English Channel until, on the 3rd day, we turn to port, and after a night at anchor Lee in the Thames Estuary, make our way to our final destination in London's Docklands. Next, perhaps for some of the most important information,
Self-service bar. That means we trust you to help yourself to drinks, make your drinks, and clean the bathroom.
And then we're shown how to don our survival suits in case we need to abandon the ship.
Unsinkable and completely invisible in your immersion suit there.
The ethos of the Jubilee Sailing Trust is very much that people with a wide range of disabilities can fully participate as crew, not just as passengers. The ship has many adaptations, including lifts between all levels and even hoists to allow wheelchair users to go aloft in the rigging. In case the lifts can't be used, we're trained how to transfer wheelchair users safely up the companionway with watch leader Neil assisted by Dave. Undoubtedly the most dangerous duty performed by the crew of a tall ship is to go aloft, and we're being taught the correct use of our safety equipment before attempting the ascent. Fortunately, going aloft isn't compulsory, and I soon decided that my feet belong securely on the deck. Never mind, there are quite sufficient people apparently only too keen to swarm up the masts. Ship's first officer Paul teaches us rope handling.
And O followed by 3 figures of 8.
Then, after a 24-hour delay to some misplaced luggage, preparations begin to get underway. The gangplank is hauled aboard. The professional crew are assisted by members of the passage crew. Our tender has been launched and is standing by. And now the delicate task of releasing the mooring lines under control and manoeuvring away from the pontoon begins. Manoeuvring a vessel that weighs in at 575 tons in this confined space, there's little room for error. The harbour master's launch moves into position to assist. And finally, we're underway. We're escorted out of the harbour for safety by our own tender and the harbour master's launch. We're in open water and greeted by a fresh breeze. Our tender's work is done, the crew have safely transferred back to the ship, and now it's time to winch it back on board. The voyage crew help with the preparation of meals. In Jersey, it's compulsory for ships over 35 metres length to be manoeuvred through the approaches by a pilot. A pilot is an experienced mariner who has expert knowledge of the hazards in the approaches to the port that they are licensed to operate in. Safely on board, the pilot will guide us safely away from St Helier. Now it's time for a lesson in sail handling. If the wind's against us, the ship's sails will pull us forward using the same principle that gives an aeroplane's wings lift. The sails are our wings over the water. As the pilot's launch turns to head for home, we pass another relic of the Atlantic Wall. As we leave the shelter of St Albans Bay, the wind and the sea are building. But the sails still need to be set, and so the passage crew must get into position. In a fresh breeze and rolling swell, the ascent is not for the faint-hearted. The sails had to be unfurled while they're controlled by other crew members on deck. David's keeping an eye on the weather. After all that work, time for something to eat. The voyage crew take it in turns to serve the meal. After lunch entertainment can't be guaranteed, we were lucky. And just as suddenly as the dolphins arrived, they're gone. They say a clean ship is a happy ship, and with the amount of washing and polishing the passage crew have to undertake every day, we deserve to be truly ecstatic. As we enter the Thames estuary, it's a break for tea and an opportunity to catch up on ship's gossip. These are Monsell forts, relics of Second World War defences. They would have been provided with anti-aircraft guns to engage German aircraft flying in Bomb Alley towards London. At Tilbury, we're joined by the Port of London Authority pilots. We also welcome aboard the adventurer and broadcaster Ben Fogle with a film crew. They're filming a piece for a documentary about the tea clipper Cutty Sark. Betty's Bridge, or more correctly, the Queen Elizabeth II Bridge, which has carried southbound traffic using the London Orbital Motorway, the M25, from Essex to Kent since 1991. Northbound traffic uses the Dartford Tunnel. The Woolwich Free Ferry carries both vehicles and pedestrians between the south bank and north bank of the River Thames without charge. The Thames Barrier has protected London from exceptionally high tides and storm surges since 1984. It took 10 years to complete, and up to December 2020 has been closed no less than 195 times. Built as the Millennium Dome to house an exhibition held for the entirety of the year 2000, this building now houses the O2 Arena. Lunch on the go. Sir Christopher Wren's iconic Royal Hospital for Seamen at Greenwich was built in the 17th century as a retirement home for Royal Naval sailors. We're approaching Tower Bridge, and it's time for Chief Officer Paul to supervise the launching of the ship's tender. Professional crew member Ali goes aboard and releases the hoist. The bascules, each weighing over 1,000 tons, are raised. We've actually passed our destination of St Katherine Dock, which is back the other side of the bridge. So the ship now has to be completely turned around on its own axis. Ali is using the tender to help turn the ship around. With constant traffic passing and the historic World War I battleship HMS Belfast moored nearby, this isn't a manoeuvre to get wrong. We're safely around, and for a second time the traffic approaching Tower Bridge is stopped and the bascules are open for us. St Katherine Dock, our final destination. The lock ensures that the water level in the dock stays constant despite the differing heights of the tide in the River Thames. Our timing is impeccable. The water in the dock is only slightly higher than the level of the river. As we come alongside, Chief Officer Paul throws a heaving line to members of the crew who have been dropped off onto the dockside. The heaving line is attached to the mooring wall. Now the mooring walk can be pulled ashore while it's being paid out by crew on the ship. Three turns around the windlass and the slack can be taken up to hold the ship securely in position while water is transferred into the lock until its level is the same as in the dock. Now the lock gates are open and we can move forward towards our berth. Members of the passage crew have moved into position on the dockside. The heaving line is thrown and this time there's a little unscheduled tree surgery before the warp is pulled ashore and we're made secure. On our last day aboard, we're debriefed by Ship's Master Simon Catterson.
We managed 332 miles, of which, somewhat disappointingly, just a little under half, 47% or something, was under sail. You're the ones that got the ship from Jersey to London. So well done you guys, thank you for getting involved and taking part.
As the complement of a visiting naval ship parade on the quayside, we leave our ship. Our home for the last 5 days. A time during which I visited a place I hadn't been to before and became part of the passage crew of an iconic sailing vessel. A team that all of the crew would become mutually dependent upon for our safe passage from Jersey through the busiest shipping lanes in the world to our eventual destination in the heart of England's capital city. I confirm that as someone who suffers from vertigo if I go up on tiptoe, my feet are best kept firmly on deck. We learned how to sail a traditional sailing ship, vessels that once upon a time were commonplace and essential for world trade. An iconic sailing vessel made passage in company with iconic sea life. We kept the ship shipshape and didn't go hungry. We saw sights both old and new. And together we brought the ship safely from the Channel Islands to a port that years ago would have welcomed many such ships involved in international trade. Now we go our separate directions, enriched by our experience of the last 5 days of life on board the Jubilee Sailing Trust sailing vessel Tenacious.